Henry Kissinger said that that if you want to destroy Russia, all you need is Ukraine. The RAND Corp, Pentagon-linked think tank, said the same thing in its 2019 report on weakening Russia, that Ukraine is the key. Carl Gershman, the founder of the National Endowment for Democracy, in a 2013 op-ed for the Washington Post, said, Ukraine is the prize, in an op-ed calling for regime change in Moscow. So Putin understands that if he loses Ukraine, he loses his country. And Russians understand that. That's why this war is popular. Russia will become balkanized, weakened. Its budget will disproportionately go towards endless war. And that's what the US wants. But I don't think it's going to be able to continue this indefinitely because of political considerations and because of the growing surge of opposition inside the US. Something you don't see as much, you don't see enough of in Europe. But kind of, I mean, going back to the original point that I was making, the people who have financial interests in this war still hold sway, have the most influence, and they're doing everything they can to game the 2024 election to make sure that no candidate can vie for the presidency who is campaigning on a platform of ending this proxy war.
Yeah, so there goes Trump. There goes Robert F. Kennedy Jr. RFK wants to be done with this. I know we're getting close to running out of time. I didn't even get to my other 2/3, but this has been so enjoyable.
Sorry, I
love it. I love it. I definitely want to have you back on the show because I've learned like 100 new things. But you'll probably agree with this based off the profiteering stuff. But Colonel Douglas Macgregor told me privately off camera. He said, "Do you know what Donald Trump's biggest sin was?" And I said, "No." He said that he might interrupt the flow of money for war. He said as soon as they realized he was, potentially interrupting all of the billions of dollars in contract money, going to war, these coups, they have thrown everything they can at him. It all comes down to interrupting these profits. I thought that was very interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
And the biggest threat is bringing people like Doug Macgregor into the administration instead of John Bolton. The first time around, Trump got rolled. He brought the neocons into the building. It wasn't just Bolton, it was H.R. McMaster. H.R. McMaster was leaking something on Trump every day as his chief of staff. He was just under siege. So Trump would come in as a vengeful figure, as a complete rogue. And that is the real nightmare there. I completely agree with Tucker Carlson's monologue on why the indictment, what really motivated the indictment. And it is this war, and it is the potential of Trump to not just disrupt the war, but to disrupt the continuity of the American national security state. Whether he does so deliberately or not, he forces this entire bureaucratic apparatus onto the defensive, and they're almost afraid of what he will say as what he will do. I mean, just consider what Trump said when he was asked about his opposition to the Iraq war. They said, "Oh, Saddam Hussein, he had rape rooms, he was a terrible killer." And he said, "Well, we've had a lot of killers too." You're not allowed to say that. And that's just a giant blow to the psyche of the national security state. I don't know if Trump will be able to get out from this if he somehow came into office, if he'd immediately be able to extricate the US from the war, but he would initiate a process of chaos inside Washington that would fundamentally weaken the proxy war effort. And if you look at what happened to Tucker Carlson too at Fox News, there was like a cover story for why he had to be fired. And it was that he sent these private emails that were supposedly racist. White men don't fight like that. If you actually look at the entire email, it's him. First of all, these were private, so I don't know how much damage they could have done. But the email said, he fantasized about an Antifa member getting beaten up. Then he realized that it was wrong to think that way, that he felt sorry for the kid, and the email itself wasn't even that offensive. The real reason was Tucker Carlson was waking millions of Americans up. And we're talking about the same Americans who might have supported Bush's war on terror, people in middle America, conservative people, waking them up to what the imperial class in Washington was doing in Ukraine. And that is just an unforgivable sin in corporate US media. And he was the top show. He was showing the same thing Phil Donahue showed at MSNBC during the Iraq War, which is that Americans are fundamentally not interested in having the insane foreign entanglements that George Washington warned against. They may be patriotic, they may be nationalistic, but they're not interested in these imperial entanglements. And so Tucker had to go. What I think happened was they tried to buy his silence, and he refused. Yeah. And that's why me and you, or I myself, I'm speaking for myself, I'm always going to be relegated. I hate using the term relegated, but I'm always going to be in the world of alternative online media, because there's no space for these opinions in an inverted totalitarian structure like the kind that the American political elite have created, where we have a democratic veneer. They use democracy as a soft power weapon to promote their interests, impose them abroad on countries that are supposedly authoritarian. But at home, our speech is completely, any speech that contravenes their objectives is censored in a sort of soft way where it just is suppressed, can't be heard. And people who manage to penetrate the propaganda model, like Tucker Carlson, for example, or Phil Donahue 20 years ago, they're just given the guillotine, and then they just lie about why that happened. So from within the electoral system, Donald Trump is going to be given the same treatment. And the indictment of Donald Trump sets a very dangerous precedent, because it means that someone like, I don't know, Bernie Sanders, I can't come up with a better example from the left, but someone who might challenge the financial interests of the warmongers or of Wall Street, of that class, that they can be indicted on some ticky-tack foul as well, and they will be. It just sets a precedent. Oh, this can happen. We can do this.
Well, RFK's in the same boat. He wants to end this war. He wants to bring military personnel back to the United States, and they're going after him. They're suppressing him like crazy. They're applying every negative, anti-Semitic, racist, anti-vaccine, like everything they can come up with. They're throwing those darts at him every second of the day. It's gross.
And you have to resist if you're RFK. I mean, you have to accept that it's going to be rigged against you. So you might as well just tell the truth. Yeah. And I don't know if that's what he's doing right now. I think he's being co-opted. If you look at what he's saying about Israel, I think he knows better. He's taking the most extreme neocon line. He's doing events with figures who are controlled by Likudnik billionaires like the Adelson family. I'm talking about Shmuley Boteach. He just did an event with him in New York. And if you listen to what he's saying, he's actually issuing a pro-war message about Iran and saying we shouldn't be fighting in Ukraine. We should be threatening Iran instead. And that's not the RFK that I saw when he launched this campaign. So I question whether he's not only being savagely smeared and attacked, but whether he's being taken in and co-opted by a sinister element that represents just a fanatical wing of the establishment connected to Israel. Israel, like Ukraine, is just there as a trigger point for massive regional war that could at some point turn nuclear.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see RFK just giving into that, when I don't think he has any chance of the Democratic nomination. The DNC will never allow that.
Yeah, no, they want Biden because they can control Biden, or they'll put Newsom or somebody else. Yeah. But yeah, RFK talks a lot about corporate capture, and they're trying to capture him right now.
Yeah, and I know you wanted to talk about the World Economic Forum. I mean, Biden's sort of an old school retail Democrat, someone like Bill Clinton, who's very dependable. Um, Gavin Newsom, this is someone who has a more transnational mindset, who's obsessed with these boutique issues like the climate, and has been brought through the training seminars of the World Economic Forum in Davos. He's more like Justin Trudeau than Joe Biden. And if you go back and watch Biden's last State of the Union, it's very interesting. He only talks almost exclusively about kitchen table issues, and he tries to skirt around a lot of the less popular and weirder obsessions of some of the people around him, especially in the liberal donor class. That's not going to be Gavin Newsom. This is a disturbing character who is, I think, transcends the two parties and represents something dystopian that's entering our political class that has very little to do with American political culture.
Yeah. Wow. This has been a fascinating discussion. I hope you'll come on again, because like I say, I only got to about 1/3 of what I wanted to cover, but I want to get you back to your family. I appreciate everything you do. If people want to follow you or learn more, where can they go?
Just go to thegrayzone.com. You can follow me at Max Blumenthal on Twitter, and we're the Gray Zone News on Twitter. And one of the best ways to follow us also is on YouTube. Just look up the Gray Zone. We do me and my colleague Aaron Mate do a live stream every week where we cover issues like this.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Max, for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day and vacation.
Hey there, it's Stephen Gardner. I'm so sorry to interrupt this important interview, but if you have a mortgage, I want to tell you there's a better way to pay that house off in 7 years or less. You need to meet with one of my coaches over at Replace Your Mortgage, where they will show you how to pay that house off in 7 years or less using the same income you have right now. We all know that for most people, buying a house is their biggest investment, yet banking products are systematically designed to make banks wealthy. I want to help you be wealthy and get debt-free even faster. So I'll leave a link down below.